Hi, dear friend. Tonight, step away from the noise of the world and enter a quiet moment with Scripture. Let calm unfold slowly as your thoughts begin to soften. Long ago, in the quiet hills of Israel, there were words that many hearts came to know by memory. They were spoken softly, passed from parent to child, whispered in moments of fear and repeated in times of rest. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." These words from Psalm 23 have rested beside countless beds and have followed many souls through long nights and weary days. They paint a picture of green pastures, still waters, and a guiding presence that never abandons the path. It is easy to linger there, in that gentle field where nothing seems lacking. Psalm 23 feels familiar, like a well-worn blanket placed carefully over the heart. Its comfort is steady and reliable, reminding the weary that they are known, led, and protected. For generations, these words have carried people through valleys both literal and unseen. They have been spoken in quiet rooms and open fields, offering assurance that goodness and mercy do not wander far behind. Yet even as these words settle into the soul, a quiet question begins to rise, not in challenge, but in invitation. What if there is more comfort waiting to be discovered? What if the same God who spoke peace through the shepherd's song also scattered gentle promises throughout the rest of the Psalms, waiting patiently to be noticed? The Scriptures are wide and deep, and Psalm 23 is only one stream flowing from a much larger spring. In ancient Israel, the Psalms were not arranged as a single moment of comfort, but as a collection of prayers, songs, and reflections shaped by many nights and many lives. Some were sung aloud in gatherings. Others were whispered alone beneath open skies. Each carried its own tone, its own quiet offering of rest. Beyond the familiar shepherd's path, there were hidden valleys of peace and lesser-known words that soothed anxious hearts just as tenderly. There is a natural human tendency to return again and again to what is known. Familiar words feel safe. They require no effort to recall and no energy to hold. In moments of exhaustion, the heart often reaches for what it already trusts. This is not wrong. It is deeply human. Yet Scripture gently suggests that comfort does not run out when one passage is read again. Instead, it expands, waiting patiently in places we have not yet lingered. The Book of Psalms reflects the full landscape of human experience. Joy and sorrow, confidence and uncertainty, rest and restlessness all find a voice there. The same God who is described as a shepherd is also described as a refuge, a shield, a quiet dwelling place. These images are not repetitions of the same idea, but different doors opening into the same peace. Each one offers a slightly different way to rest. Imagine an ancient home at night, lit by a small oil lamp. Outside, the world is dark and still. Inside, a voice reads from a scroll, not rushing, not striving, simply allowing the words to settle. The familiar lines may come first, easing the mind. Then, slowly, the reader continues onward, discovering phrases that speak of lying down in safety, of hearts at rest, of trust that remains even when questions linger unanswered. This is the spirit in which these hidden comforts were written. They do not demand attention. They do not announce themselves loudly. They wait quietly, like stars that only become visible when the sky grows dark enough. Psalm 23 shines brightly, but it is not alone. Around it are many other lights, steady and calm, each offering its own gentle reassurance. To move beyond the shepherd's psalm is not to leave it behind. It is to walk further into the same landscape, guided by the same presence. The path continues, winding softly through words that promise safety in the night, nearness in uncertainty, and rest for the inward parts of the soul. These verses were given not only for understanding, but for peace, shaped for moments when the body grows still and the mind longs to release its weight. As these thoughts settle, the heart begins to sense that comfort in Scripture is not confined to a single passage, no matter how beloved. It is woven throughout the Psalms, waiting to be uncovered slowly, gently, and without effort, like a quiet harmony that has always been there, ready to be heard. There is a quiet pattern woven into the human heart, a gentle leaning toward what is already familiar. When the mind feels heavy or uncertain, it reaches instinctively for words it has heard before, phrases that have proven their strength in earlier moments. Familiar passages feel like well-worn paths through a field, smoothed by many footsteps, easy to follow even in low light. They ask little of the weary soul except to rest in what it already knows. This longing for the known is neither weakness nor lack of faith. It is a reflection of trust built over time. Just as a child returns again and again to a favorite story, the heart returns to verses that have once brought peace. In the Psalms, these beloved words become companions, remembered not only for their meaning, but for the moments in which they once carried comfort. The memory of relief becomes tied to the text itself. Yet within this gentle habit lies an invitation that often goes unnoticed. The Scriptures are not a narrow path with a single resting place, but a wide and living landscape. While some verses are remembered easily, others remain quietly unread, not because they lack beauty, but because they have not yet been needed or noticed. These untraveled places hold a different kind of calm, one that waits patiently for discovery. The Book of Psalms itself reflects this pattern of return and renewal. Some psalms are clearly marked by repetition in worship and prayer, while others appear only once, spoken briefly, then left to rest on the page. The lesser-known verses do not compete for attention. They do not repeat the same images or phrases. Instead, they offer new ways of expressing trust, rest, and surrender, shaped by different moments in the lives of those who first spoke them. There is a subtle comfort in realizing that Scripture allows room for both the known and the unknown. It does not rush the reader forward, nor does it confine them to a single passage. It invites slow movement, gentle curiosity, and quiet exploration. To linger only in the familiar is natural, but to step beyond it can reveal a deeper sense of care, one that meets the soul in places it did not realize were weary. In ancient times, these words were not arranged for convenience or popularity. They were gathered over generations, shaped by joy and loss, peace and uncertainty. Some psalms were written from places of clarity, others from moments of searching. Together, they form a chorus that reflects the full experience of faith, not only its most well-known expressions. Each verse adds a unique tone to the whole. When the heart grows curious, even softly, it begins to sense that comfort does not diminish when shared among many passages. Instead, it deepens. The same God who speaks peace through familiar words also speaks through verses that have not yet been held close. These quieter texts often carry a tenderness that surprises the reader, offering rest in a slightly different shape, suited for moments when familiar words feel too expected to reach the deeper places of the soul. This gentle curiosity does not require effort or study. It is simply a willingness to notice that the Psalms hold more than what is commonly remembered. It is an openness to let new words speak, not instead of the old, but alongside them. In doing so, the heart begins to experience Scripture not as a single source of comfort, but as a wide and patient presence, rich with unseen rest. The tendency to remain with what is known slowly gives way to a calm awareness that there is no risk in exploring further. The same faith that trusted familiar words can also trust the quiet promise of undiscovered verses. They have waited through centuries without fading, ready to offer their peace when the moment is right, gently drawing the soul into a broader and deeper sense of rest. This movement into quieter verses is not meant to instruct or persuade. It unfolds more like a slow walk taken together, unhurried and without expectation. There is no lesson to master here, and no conclusion to reach. The Psalms themselves do not hurry the soul. They offer space, allowing thoughts to settle naturally, inviting reflection rather than explanation. In this shared stillness, the words are not analyzed or broken apart. They are simply allowed to rest where they land. Just as music can calm without being understood, these ancient lines offer peace without demanding attention. Their purpose is not to teach, but to accompany, to be present in the quiet moments when the mind softens and the heart grows still. The tone of these reflections remains gentle, shaped by listening rather than speaking. Each verse is approached with openness, not as a statement to be examined, but as a presence to be felt. There is room here for silence between phrases, for breathing, for allowing meaning to unfold slowly, if it unfolds at all. Peace does not require clarity. It often arrives before understanding. The Psalms were born from lived experience, from people who sat with their thoughts under open skies and dim lamps. They did not write to instruct others in method or doctrine, but to express trust, longing, and rest as they experienced it. In that sense, these reflections mirror their origin. They do not stand above the text, but beside it, moving gently along its rhythm. This shared journey does not separate one soul from another. It recognizes a common human longing for rest that stretches across centuries. The same quiet that once surrounded these words still gathers around them now. Entering into them is less about effort and more about permission to pause, to receive, and to let go of the need to grasp or conclude. As the words continue, they form a calm companionship rather than a structured path. There is no beginning to prove and no ending to anticipate. Each moment stands on its own, offering peace simply by being present. In this way, the journey remains open, unforced, and deeply restful, shaped not by instruction, but by shared stillness and gentle trust. Among the quieter pages of the Psalms, there are verses that feel almost like lullabies, brief and tender, shaped for the stillness of night. They do not unfold in long images or extended prayers. Instead, they offer a single breath of assurance, spoken softly and then allowed to rest. These are the unsung songs of ancient Israel, often overlooked, yet perfectly formed for moments of calm. One such verse rises gently from Psalm 4. It appears without fanfare, carrying a promise that feels both simple and profound. The psalmist speaks of lying down and sleeping in peace, grounded in the confidence that the Lord alone provides safety. The words are few, but their meaning settles deeply. Peace comes first, then rest, then the quiet trust that nothing more is required. In the ancient world, night carried real uncertainty. Darkness meant vulnerability, and sleep required faith that one would awaken again. Against that backdrop, this verse becomes especially tender. It does not deny danger or pretend fear does not exist. Instead, it places trust at the center of rest. Safety is not described as something earned or controlled, but as something given. The structure of the verse itself feels calming. Peace leads into rest, and rest is held securely by divine care. There is no striving in its rhythm. Nothing is asked of the soul except to lie down. The assurance rests not in circumstances, but in the character of the one who watches through the night. This makes the promise timeless, untouched by the passing of centuries. These words were likely spoken quietly, perhaps at the end of a long day, when voices softened and lamps burned low. They carry the tone of surrender rather than effort. The psalmist does not say that sleep comes from exhaustion alone, but from trust. It is the kind of trust that allows the body to relax because the heart has found a place to rest. Unlike the grand images of shepherds and valleys, this verse offers intimacy. It draws close, speaking to the moment when eyes close and thoughts begin to loosen their grip. It reminds the soul that rest is not merely physical, but deeply spiritual. To sleep in peace is to believe, even briefly, that watchfulness is no longer required. This short psalm has often been paired with quiet music in worship and prayer, not to fill the space, but to support the stillness it invites. Its words do not demand to be sung loudly. They seem shaped for softness, for gentle repetition, for the kind of tone that fades naturally into silence. Even without sound, the verse carries its own quiet melody. The promise within it does not depend on understanding every mystery or resolving every concern. It rests on a single truth spoken plainly. The Lord makes it possible to dwell in safety. The emphasis falls not on the sleeper, but on the one who guards. This shift brings relief. Responsibility loosens. Vigilance fades. Rest becomes possible. There are many such verses scattered throughout the Psalms, but this one stands out for its simplicity. It does not linger or explain. It offers its comfort and then steps back, leaving space for peace to settle. In doing so, it models a kind of prayer that does not hold on tightly, but releases gently. These unsung lullabies remind the heart that Scripture often speaks most powerfully in brief moments. A single line can carry enough reassurance to quiet anxious thoughts and steady the inner world. In the stillness of night, such words become companions, offering calm not through volume or repetition, but through quiet trust that has endured across generations. The quiet assurance found in these ancient words does not remain locked in the past. Though centuries have passed, the human heart still carries many of the same burdens. Thoughts linger at night, replaying conversations, responsibilities, and worries that refuse to settle. The setting may have changed, but the inward restlessness feels familiar. In this way, the promise of peaceful rest speaks directly into the present moment. Modern life often fills the mind long after the body grows tired. There is noise even in silence, a constant hum of expectation and concern. The ancient verse that speaks of lying down in peace offers a different rhythm. It does not suggest solving every problem or answering every question. It points instead to release, to the simple act of placing what cannot be carried into safer hands. What makes these words tangible is their honesty. They do not deny the presence of fear or uncertainty. They acknowledge the need for safety without describing every threat. This allows the verse to meet modern anxieties without naming them. Whether the concern is work, health, relationships, or the weight of tomorrow, the promise remains steady. Peace is not earned by resolving everything, but received through trust. The act of lying down becomes symbolic as well as physical. It reflects a choice to stop holding tightly to the day. In ancient times, this choice required faith in divine protection through the night. Today, it reflects a willingness to step away from constant vigilance. The words invite the mind to rest where it no longer needs to anticipate or prepare. These verses also offer a gentle correction to the belief that rest must be deserved. In a world that values productivity, stillness can feel unearned. The psalm speaks differently. It presents rest as a gift, rooted in the character of God rather than the effort of the individual. This shift eases the pressure to accomplish even in moments meant for quiet. When daily burdens feel heavy, the simplicity of these ancient lines becomes their strength. They do not add more instructions to follow or more thoughts to process. They reduce everything to a single assurance of safety. This allows anxious thoughts to loosen, one by one, without force or struggle. The words also create a boundary around the night. They suggest that there is a time to be awake and a time to rest, and that both are held within divine care. This rhythm brings comfort to a world that often blurs those boundaries. The mind is reminded that it does not need to carry the full weight of the day into the hours meant for restoration. In this way, the Psalms offer more than memory or tradition. They provide a practical release from daily strain. Their promises can be held quietly, not as statements to analyze, but as truths to rest within. The same calm that once settled over ancient hearts still finds its way into modern lives, offering peace that remains gentle, steady, and deeply reassuring. With the weight of the day gently set aside, the body naturally seeks stillness. The ancient words invite a simple response, one that requires no effort and no understanding. Eyes close, not in escape, but in trust. In that quiet moment, the promise of safety moves from the page into the inner world, where calm is felt rather than explained. As sight fades, other senses soften. The breath slows. Muscles release their tension. The mind no longer needs to scan or prepare. The verse remains present, not as sound, but as a settled awareness. Safety is no longer a thought to hold on to. It becomes an atmosphere, surrounding and steady, allowing the heart to rest without guarding itself. These words were shaped for such moments. They do not demand attention or repetition. They work quietly, like a gentle covering placed over restless thoughts. The assurance they carry does not rush the process of calm. It allows tranquility to arrive at its own pace, unfolding naturally as the mind gives itself permission to be still. There is a difference between hearing a promise and absorbing it. Absorption happens slowly, often beneath conscious awareness. The text offers a space where worry has no urgency and fear finds no foothold. In that space, the heart senses that it is held, watched over, and free to release its vigilance. The feeling of safety described in the Psalms is not abstract. It is physical and emotional, touching the places where tension often hides. Shoulders soften. The jaw loosens. The steady rhythm of breathing becomes a quiet companion. The ancient assurance moves gently through the body, bringing rest where strain once lingered. Tranquility grows not through effort, but through presence. The verse does not ask the mind to think differently or to imagine something new. It simply offers a truth and allows it to settle. The calm that follows is unforced, arriving as naturally as sleep follows stillness. In this quiet absorption, the boundaries of time begin to blur. The concerns of the day lose their sharpness. What remains is a sense of being secure in a moment that asks for nothing more. The ancient words continue to do what they have always done, providing a shelter for the soul, felt most clearly when the eyes are closed and the heart is at rest. Within this quiet safety, another kind of verse begins to speak, one that understands the inner places where doubt quietly gathers. These psalms do not focus on external threats or the need for protection alone. They turn inward, addressing moments when the heart feels overwhelmed by its own thoughts, when questions arise about worth, patience, and endurance. Psalm 139 speaks into this space with remarkable tenderness. It affirms that each life is formed with intention and care, shaped in secret and known completely. The psalmist reflects on being created by God, woven together with purpose rather than accident. These words do not argue for value or attempt to prove it. They simply state it as truth. Wonder replaces uncertainty, not through reasoning, but through recognition of being known and formed. This assurance meets doubt at its root. When the mind questions its place or worth, the psalm answers quietly by returning to origins. It reminds the heart that value does not begin with achievement or approval. It begins with creation itself. To be made is to be wanted. To be known is to be held. These words offer hope without denying struggle, allowing both to exist together. Another gentle voice rises in Psalm 62, speaking to the weary soul that waits. It acknowledges inner restlessness and directs it toward patience. The psalmist speaks of finding rest in God alone, describing him as a rock and a refuge. The imagery is steady and unmoving, offering stability when emotions feel unsettled and thoughts feel heavy. This psalm does not rush the process of waiting. It recognizes that the soul often needs reassurance while time unfolds slowly. Hope here is not loud or urgent. It is quiet and grounded, rooted in trust that does not depend on immediate change. The promise is not that challenges disappear, but that steadiness remains. Together, these verses form whispers of hope rather than declarations. They do not overwhelm the heart with instruction. They sit beside it, offering reassurance in moments when strength feels thin. They remind the soul that doubt does not disqualify faith, and that feeling overwhelmed does not mean being abandoned. In the stillness, these words find their place gently. They speak to the inner world with compassion, offering patience where there is strain and worth where there is uncertainty. Their hope is subtle but enduring, settling quietly into the heart, where it remains steady and calm, even when questions linger. These verses reveal a quality that gives the Psalms their enduring nearness. They speak without pretense, allowing the full range of human emotion to appear on the page. Joy is expressed openly, but so are fear, confusion, weariness, and longing. The writers do not hide their inner struggles or soften their questions. This honesty becomes a quiet bridge across time, connecting ancient hearts with those of the present. The Psalms do not require calm before being spoken. Many of them arise from moments of unrest, when emotions feel tangled and unresolved. Doubt is not corrected or silenced. It is voiced. Grief is not minimized. It is named. Even trust is often expressed alongside uncertainty, showing that faith and struggle can exist together without contradiction. This openness makes the words feel deeply personal. They do not sound like polished speeches meant to impress or instruct. They sound like real prayers, shaped in moments when the heart speaks before the mind has arranged its thoughts. This is why they remain relatable. Human emotions have not changed, even as cultures and centuries have shifted. The psalmists speak of waiting when patience feels thin, of hope when outcomes are unclear, of trust formed in the midst of fear rather than after it has passed. Their language reflects lived experience rather than idealized belief. In doing so, they give permission to acknowledge emotions without shame or fear of being misunderstood. This honesty also carries comfort. When the words express feelings that are difficult to name, the soul feels less alone. There is relief in recognizing that confusion and vulnerability were present even in the lives of those who first spoke these prayers. The Psalms do not present a faith untouched by emotion. They reveal a faith shaped by it. Thousands of years have passed since these words were written, yet their tone remains familiar. The same questions arise. The same longings return. The same need for reassurance appears in quiet moments. The Psalms continue to resonate because they speak from the inside out, honoring the reality of the human heart as it is. This raw sincerity allows the verses to settle gently into modern lives. They do not feel distant or outdated. They feel present, as if written for moments when emotions surface without warning and thoughts drift between hope and uncertainty. Their honesty becomes a form of companionship, offering understanding without judgment. In this way, the Psalms remain deeply human while pointing beyond the human experience. They acknowledge emotion fully while resting it within trust. This balance gives them a lasting tenderness, one that continues to offer connection and calm, even as time moves steadily onward. Within the gentle honesty of the Psalms lies an opportunity to make their words profoundly personal. The prayers and reflections, though spoken long ago, can be received as if they are meant for each heart individually. One simple way to enter this intimacy is to allow the verses to speak directly to oneself, softly placing one's own name where the speaker's voice once said, "I." In this quiet adjustment, the words begin to resonate in a new and tender way. Imagine a verse that declares, "I will lie down and sleep in peace, for the Lord watches over me." Slowly, the mind substitutes the familiar name. Samantha will lie down and sleep in peace, for the Lord watches over Samantha. The change is subtle, yet the effect is profound. The verse no longer hovers as a distant truth or abstract promise. It becomes an embrace directed toward the heart that receives it, a personal assurance meant only for that moment and that soul. This practice draws attention to the way God's care touches each individual uniquely. The Psalms are filled with universal truths, yet they were never meant to feel remote. By listening to them as personal words, the verses transform from something memorized into something experienced. The act of naming oneself within the text invites full presence, quieting the mind's tendency to drift into unrelated worries and focusing the heart on the present assurance. The impact is not merely psychological. When the mind repeats the verses with personal reference, the body responds as well. Breathing slows, tension loosens, and the heart feels lighter. The words, once distant lines on a page or gentle echoes in memory, become living encouragement. They carry weight not because they are commanded or enforced, but because they are felt as if meant for the one who rests within them. This approach also opens a space for reflection. Each name placed into the verse allows subtle truths to settle differently, emphasizing areas where hope is needed or strength is desired. In moments of uncertainty or fear, the psalmist's confidence becomes a scaffold, supporting the individual where they stand. Each phrase can be absorbed, allowing the rhythm of trust and surrender to move naturally through the mind and heart. Even beyond the act of inserting one's own name, this practice encourages a sense of dialogue with the text. The psalmist's words are no longer distant reflections. They become companions for the night, speaking directly into the quiet spaces of thought and feeling. The ancient voice blends seamlessly with personal experience, reminding that trust and care are neither abstract nor generalized, but intimately offered to each person in turn. As the verses settle in this personal way, the heart begins to notice patterns of assurance that were perhaps overlooked before. Promises of protection, patience, and presence no longer feel general or theoretical. They feel immediate, surrounding the soul with a quiet warmth that is both comforting and sustaining. The words take root where anxiety or restlessness might have been, gently replacing tension with a soft rhythm of trust. This method of finding personal resonance transforms reading or listening into participation. The Psalms move from being observed to being lived. The simple act of placing one's own name within the sacred text allows the ancient promises to inhabit the self fully, giving them a directness and intimacy that reaches beneath the surface, into the quiet places where peace can grow. Even when the heart feels unsteady and the path ahead seems unclear, certain psalms rise like a quiet anchor in the midst of uncertainty. Psalm 91, for example, offers an image of protection that does not rely on circumstances or human effort. It speaks of being covered and sheltered, as though wrapped in a presence that moves with the soul through both calm and storm. The words do not promise a life without challenge, but they promise steadfastness, a quiet assurance that steadiness exists even when the waters are unknown. Psalm 121 carries a similar comfort, lifting the gaze toward the hills, toward a help that comes from beyond oneself. The psalmist's attention moves outward and upward, reminding the heart that support is not limited to what can be seen or controlled. Help is constant, unceasing, and reliable. This perspective shifts the soul from fixating on turbulence to resting in the awareness of steady presence, an immovable ground beneath shifting tides. These psalms speak to moments when life feels unpredictable. The currents of daily concern, the uncertainties of future days, and the invisible pressures that weigh on the mind are all acknowledged without needing to be solved immediately. The verses offer stability not by removing challenge, but by offering a foundation that does not waver. This steadiness becomes a quiet companion, present without demanding attention, allowing the heart to breathe. Imagining the images within these verses deepens their effect. To be covered with protection is to feel the weight of care resting lightly, but firmly, across one's being. To have eyes lifted toward help suggests release, a permission to let go of constant vigilance and to trust that support exists beyond what the mind can grasp. In this imagery, calm is not forced. It arrives naturally, carried by understanding rather than reasoning. The ancient writers understood uncertainty intimately. Their words were born in a world where danger could appear suddenly, and where each day required careful navigation. Yet even in the midst of that unpredictability, they found expressions of trust and reassurance. These words endure because they do not promise a life free of uncertainty, but they do promise that the soul can find steadiness in the presence of the divine, wherever the path may lead. By allowing these verses to settle quietly in the mind, one can notice the subtle rhythm of confidence they provide. Each phrase serves as a gentle reminder that even amid uncharted waters, the heart can feel anchored. The Psalms describe not only protection and help, but also the constancy of care, unshaken by fear or circumstance. This constancy becomes a silent guide, offering stability without effort and reassurance without urgency. The imagery of shelter, of watchful presence, and of lifting eyes towards steady help moves naturally into the rhythm of breath and thought. The soul begins to sense that stability is not a distant hope but a tangible reality, present in the space between inhale and exhale, felt most clearly when attention softens. Even when the world feels shifting and unpredictable, the words provide a foundation where the heart can rest and trust. Even in the modern world, where news travels instantly and challenges seem to stretch beyond personal control, the need for steadiness remains unchanged. Global events, shifting economies, and distant uncertainties can create a subtle tension that lingers long after the day's activities have ended. In these moments, the ancient Psalms speak across time, offering the same anchor that steadied hearts centuries ago. The promises of protection and help take on renewed significance against the backdrop of contemporary anxiety. They remind the heart that even when circumstances feel unpredictable and pressures multiply, there is a presence that does not waver. This steadiness does not remove the complexity of life, but it offers a point of calm from which the soul can observe and endure without being swept away by every passing concern. In Psalm 91, the imagery of being covered and shielded resonates deeply. Today, it may be imagined as a quiet refuge amid the noise of constant information or the uncertainty of global change. Psalm 121's lifting of eyes toward the hills mirrors the human need to look beyond immediate problems, seeking reassurance from a source that is stable and enduring. These verses acknowledge the reality of challenge while offering a perspective that transcends it. There is a rhythm to life that persists regardless of time or place, a universal experience of waiting, wondering, and sometimes feeling unmoored. The Psalms meet this experience with simplicity and clarity. They do not attempt to simplify the world, but they offer a stable foundation upon which the mind and heart can rest, even when news and events stir unease. This timeless need for an anchor is reflected in human practice across cultures and centuries. People have always sought places of certainty, whether in prayer, ritual, nature, or quiet reflection. The Psalms provide such an anchor through words alone, offering constancy that does not depend on circumstances or control. Their presence is steady, a reminder that stability can be found within trust rather than in external outcomes. By contemplating these verses in relation to current anxieties, the mind begins to perceive a quiet separation between what can be influenced and what can be entrusted. The heart can release the illusion of total responsibility for the world, finding calm in the knowledge that steadfast care is available even when events remain complex or uncertain. The Psalms offer a gentle guidance toward this inner stability, a reminder that hope and protection are not bound by time, but persist through every age. Even as the world shifts and challenges evolve, these words continue to provide a place of pause. They draw attention to the enduring human need for grounding, a stable presence that remains when everything else feels changeable. The Psalms act as a quiet compass, pointing toward reassurance and constancy that remain available regardless of circumstance, offering a gentle anchor for the mind and soul alike. In the quiet of the night, these verses can take on a rhythm all their own, becoming gentle affirmations that move with the breath and the pulse of the body. The words need not be spoken aloud to have effect. They can be repeated silently, slowly, allowing each phrase to settle into the mind and the spaces between thoughts. By letting the text flow in this way, It becomes a companion for the moments when consciousness begins to soften and the edges of wakefulness blur. Psalm 91's promise of protection, for example, can be repeated quietly. I am held and sheltered. I am covered and safe. Each repetition is a small anchor, reinforcing the trust that steadies the heart. Psalm 121's lifting of the eyes can also be drawn inward. Help comes from the unshakable source. I am supported. I am guided. The verses transform into a personal cadence, a soothing rhythm that aligns with breathing, creating a calm space where the body can release tension and the mind can let go of lingering worry. This practice does not require a strict schedule or a precise number of repetitions. It is not a task to accomplish, but a gentle invitation to linger in the safety of the words. As each phrase passes through thought and feeling, it begins to weave a subtle pattern of reassurance, like a quiet tide that washes over the edges of stress, softening them until the mind can rest. The repetition is not for memorization, but for presence, a way to embody the promises within the rhythm of sleep's approach. Repeating the Psalms in this way also reinforces the sense of personal connection. When the verses are held inwardly, they can be adjusted subtly to reflect one's own experience. The word I can be replaced with a name, or the phrases can be imagined as surrounding the heart directly. This transforms abstract assurances into tangible comfort, allowing the words to settle more deeply into consciousness and into the quiet spaces where restoration begins. The effect is cumulative. Each cycle of thought, each gentle repetition, softens the grip of restlessness. Worries that once demanded attention are acknowledged and then placed aside, carried into the quiet trust embedded in the Psalms. The heart feels steadier, the mind less burdened, and the body more receptive to the slow unfolding of sleep. Over time, the verses become a rhythm that guides the transition from wakefulness to stillness, a gentle accompaniment to the natural slowing of the senses. Even in the midst of a busy or anxious day, this practice offers a subtle refuge. It does not require retreat or isolation, only the willingness to return inward, to allow the words to echo softly, and to let their meaning be experienced rather than analyzed. The Psalms, repeated silently, act as a gentle current, moving steadily beneath the surface of thought, carrying calm and assurance into every corner of awareness. Through this simple repetition, the ancient words become living support. They create a space where trust can settle and where the heart can recognize that protection, guidance, and care are present even when the world feels uncertain. The affirmations do not rush or demand. They accompany, offering continuity, reassurance, and a quiet presence that flows naturally as consciousness drifts toward rest. The words of the Psalms gather gently now, forming a quiet sanctuary where the mind and heart can linger. Each phrase becomes a small blessing, soft and steady, weaving together a tapestry of calm that rests easily over the spirit. The Lord is my refuge. I am watched over. I am held in peace. These simple lines rise without urgency, surrounding the quiet spaces of thought with assurance and gentle presence. Other phrases drift softly alongside them, each carrying a different shade of comfort. I am formed with care. I am known. I am guided through uncertainty. The words do not rush or demand attention. They settle like warm light across the edges of awareness, illuminating a space where tension loosens and stillness grows. Each phrase adds depth to the quiet, layering trust upon trust, presence upon presence. The sanctuary of these verses expands naturally, carrying additional whispers of calm. I am sheltered. I am protected. Help comes from above. Each line can be felt in the body as well as the mind, a rhythm that eases shoulders, softens the jaw, and slows the breath. The promise of steadiness, of care that endures beyond change, flows gently into every corner of awareness, filling spaces that may have felt heavy or unsettled. Even the shortest expressions have power. I lie down in peace. I sleep without fear. My heart is steady. These words, repeated quietly or simply felt, form the boundaries of a safe place within. The phrases are woven together naturally, like threads in a tapestry, creating a cohesive presence that surrounds thought, memory, and imagination alike. In their quiet continuity, they offer a form of rest that is both tangible and gentle, holding the mind without confinement. The collection of these blessings forms a rhythm that mirrors the gentle rise and fall of breath, the quiet cadence of life slowing in the evening. I am known. I am cared for. I am accompanied. I am at rest. Each fragment resonates with the others, reinforcing calm, trust, and the enduring presence of care. The words do not compete but blend seamlessly, creating a steady, soothing flow that carries attention from the busyness of the day into the calm of night. In this final weaving, the sanctuary feels complete yet expansive, a space not bounded by walls but by the presence of comfort itself. Each phrase is a gentle hand, each repetition a quiet embrace. I am safe. I am watched over. I am surrounded by peace. The verses fold into one another, forming a continuous, unbroken blessing, a shelter built not of stone but of words, rhythm, and timeless care. Here, in the soft continuity of these phrases, the heart finds room to release, the mind finds quiet, and the soul rests in an enduring presence. Every whisper from the Psalms contributes to this sanctuary, offering a calm, steady harmony that continues without effort, a peaceful benediction held in the simplicity and depth of ancient truth. Within the quiet of the sanctuary, the less famous verses of the Psalms reveal a gentle strength that often goes unnoticed. These words, spoken softly and rarely celebrated, carry a potency that does not rely on grandeur or recognition. Their power lies in their intimacy, in their ability to meet the heart where it rests, to provide a sense of safety and calm that is both personal and profound. They are like hidden streams feeding a still pond, quiet but essential, nourishing the soul with steady, unassuming grace. Each phrase acts as a small anchor, offering a touchstone for the mind to hold when thoughts wander or anxieties drift close. I am guided. I am cared for. I am protected. These statements, simple and unobtrusive, build a personal sanctuary one layer at a time. They are not loud declarations but soft invitations to trust, to rest, and to allow the body and spirit to release tension. In this way, the less-known verses often achieve more than the familiar ones, because they require no distraction, no ceremony, only attention and presence. The personal sanctuary formed by these verses is not confined by structure or expectation. It exists wherever the heart opens to receive it. Each line, when absorbed slowly and quietly, becomes a protective boundary, a space within which the mind can breathe freely. Thoughts that once seemed urgent can be observed without panic. Feelings that once felt heavy can be recognized without fear. The sanctuary is shaped by the interaction of the verse with the individual, a living, responsive place of calm that grows with every repetition and every moment of reflection. There is also a subtle rhythm to how these verses work. Repeated silently, or allowed to echo softly in the mind, they create a steady pulse of reassurance. I am known. I am held. I am surrounded by peace. These affirmations form a framework that supports not only rest but resilience. The mind begins to associate stillness with trust, the heart with security, and the body with release. Over time, the sanctuary becomes both mental and physical, a unified space where awareness and tranquility coexist seamlessly. The hidden power of these verses also lies in their flexibility. They adapt to the individual quietly, allowing each person to find what is most resonant. One phrase may speak directly to fear, another to weariness, another to the subtle ache of doubt or longing. The psalm's ability to meet these moments without judgment or expectation reinforces their enduring relevance. Even though centuries have passed, the verses continue to offer refuge, a place where the inner life can be held and nurtured in ways that feel immediate and deeply personal. This sanctuary is enriched by the interplay between thought and feeling, word and presence. By gently focusing on these less celebrated passages, the mind is invited to rest, the heart to release, and the spirit to receive. They create a harmony that is subtle but powerful, a sanctuary built not on ceremony or noise, but on trust, rhythm, and quiet reflection. It is a place where calm can take root, where peace can expand, and where the soul is reminded that the divine care of these ancient words is accessible in every still moment. In this way, the less famous verses of the Psalms offer more than comfort. They offer a personal sanctuary. Their quiet strength forms an intimate space within the mind and spirit, one that endures regardless of circumstance, one that can be returned to again and again. Within their gentle assurances, the heart finds steadiness, the mind finds clarity, and the soul finds a refuge of profound, restorative calm. The quiet sanctuary built by the Psalms now stretches gently across the mind, heart, and spirit, forming a presence that is both delicate and enduring. Each phrase that has been spoken or absorbed in thought continues to ripple softly, weaving an invisible tapestry of calm around every corner of awareness. The weight of the day, with its small anxieties and lingering tasks, begins to settle as the mind follows the steady cadence of assurance offered in these ancient words. There is no hurry, no expectation, only the slow unfolding of trust and presence, a rhythm that matches the natural rise and fall of breath, allowing tension to dissolve quietly into the background. These verses, though often less celebrated, carry a potency that grows stronger in silence. Each line is a small hand extended toward the soul, guiding thought and attention toward a place of safety and stillness. The Psalms remind the heart that it is held, known, and watched over, and in this knowledge, even the heaviest thoughts begin to lighten. With each repetition, each absorption of a phrase, the sanctuary strengthens, becoming a living space where rest is not just imagined but felt, a refuge built from the delicate harmony of words and presence. I am guided. I am held. I am protected. I am surrounded by peace. These simple affirmations, when allowed to resonate without pressure or expectation, form a melody that lingers beyond the conscious mind. The mind no longer needs to chase solutions or construct answers, and the heart no longer carries its burdens alone. The phrases act as gentle anchors, grounding awareness in the quiet assurance of constancy. This is not instruction but invitation, not obligation but an open path into the soft stillness that lies beneath the surface of thought. May these ancient harmonies now weave fully into the rhythm of the evening. They serve as more than words. They are currents of presence that carry the mind into deeper awareness, the heart into tender security, and the spirit into a calm that transcends circumstance. Let them settle into the soft spaces between breath and heartbeat, filling each pause with steady, quiet light. Each verse acts like a thread in a larger tapestry, binding together protection, hope, patience, and care into a cohesive, gentle pattern. In this weaving, the mind feels supported, the heart feels understood, and the spirit is invited to rest in the enduring comfort of divine presence. The power of these verses lies in their subtlety and intimacy. They do not shout or demand attention. They arrive quietly, often in moments when the mind is most open, when thoughts are slowing, and when the heart is ready to receive. Each phrase can be revisited, allowed to echo softly in the inner ear, its effect deepening with time. Even the simplest line carries layers of reassurance. I am known. I am guided. I am watched over. With each repetition, a deeper sense of stability emerges, a calm that moves naturally through the body and the mind, creating a rhythm of rest that feels both organic and profound. May these ancient harmonies guide every thought, every heartbeat, and every quiet breath into a profound sense of peace. May they expand across the inner landscape, creating a sanctuary that is both personal and timeless, a place where the mind, heart, and spirit can rest fully and gently. Each verse continues to ripple, forming an unbroken, living pattern of trust and stillness that accompanies the slow descent into restorative calm. The effect is subtle yet powerful, a reminder that the presence of divine care is always near, accessible in every quiet moment, and capable of guiding the soul into a night of deep, unwavering tranquility. Here, in the union of ancient words, personal resonance, and gentle rhythm, the mind and heart find space to settle completely. Each phrase, each repetition, each echo of trust becomes part of the foundation of a sanctuary that is enduring and expansive. In this space, the soul is invited to rest, carried forward gently by the harmonies of timeless care and quiet presence, an unfolding calm that extends deeper with every breath and lingers softly through the night.